Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of the Future of Email Marketing, and I'm delighted to have as my guest today Samantha Iodice. I'll give the blurb into straight off her LinkedIn profile, and we'll get her to talk about herself first. Leader and expert in email. I knew that. CX strategy consultant, Forbes Communication Council member, and I happen to know quite an excellent speaker and writer. Samantha and I have been on a few group Zoom calls, but this is our first opportunity to talk one-to-one at any length, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really nice. I can't believe
Welcome.
we haven't in all these years. That's what's funny.
It's strange. Well, it's also a year of what my brother-in-law calls Blur's Day. It's like time has slipped in very
Yeah,
strange
that's
ways
exactly it.
because we're here in March and we're at the definite 1 year anniversary period of this
Hmm.
of this
Yeah,
mess.
I don't even know how it got to March. Like, if I think it like last week was January, so I'm really confused.
It's the Blur Day thing,
It
yeah,
is.
and
It is.
conferences and all that other stuff. Well, so we want to talk about email a bunch, but I'd love to have you share a bit about how you ended up in email and some of the things that you've done in email as a field, email marketing.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So I started late in the game. Well, just in my career in general. So I
Hmm.
was one of those. I got my degree as an adult. So I was a grown woman in her 30s when I finally got my undergraduate degree. And that was at the encouragement of my boss at Discover Card, who was still one of my favorite people in the whole world,
Nice,
and who I
nice,
model my own management style after, because uh, she's effective while still caring about the people that work for her,
nice.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I finished my degree working for her as her assistant, and then I moved into the marketing department, but it was direct mail. And I
Okay.
started in there, and this was like, gosh, oh, 7-ish or something. So then eventually I, let's see, there was the economic downturn in like '08 when it
Hmm.
started in '08 or whatever. So when that started happening, we started focusing on digital as a company, which many companies were doing at that time.
Hmm.
And we did some testing and all that stuff. Well, through this testing, I met the whole email team.
Hmm.
And then they needed someone, and they came and said, "Hey, we want you to be on the email team." And I said, "Okay, why
Nice.
not?" So I did. So I joined the email team, and never looked back. It was kind of like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm doing. And I loved all the things about just digital in general. I
Hmm.
think was exciting for me because it's always evolving. But email itself was kind of, we say this all the time, which I don't think we need to come up with a better phrase than redheaded stepchild, but we've always been the bottom rung of the digital channels.
I couldn't agree more. I want to come back and talk to that, but I do want to ask you a
Yeah.
question, and not to put you on the spot question, but how did it feel to take that step over into digital, as you said, but a field with its own set of uh, technical knowledge requirements coming from direct mail,
Mhm.
which was a great background for this. But how'd that feel?
Well, I think it was like anything else. It didn't feel unusual to me. It
Yeah,
just was, I have to learn some new stuff,
right, right. Good
and
attitude.
yeah, well, and as someone who waited a long time to finish that degree and actually start my career in marketing,
Hmm.
I think part of that time before that made me extremely flexible and adaptable, because I was trying new jobs, or
Yeah,
trying to figure out what I wanted to do and all of these things. So
yeah,
I did lots of different things. So I was
yeah.
constantly learning new things. So that
Ah,
part didn't seem so weird for me.
that's if the ability to learn is that's not the outcome of a good education, certificates or not, sheepskins or
Yes.
not, I don't know what is. So kudos to you for making that adaptation. Let's go back to that bottom rung on the ladder, which is a probably a more correct way to say it. But
Yeah.
I agree. The more I learn about email as a field, the more I go, why is this? That email marketing is like I don't. It's stuck in the closet. What's up? What? Any thoughts?
I like the stuck in the closet. That's a good one. I think it's just misunderstood. It's one of those things that's not there's a lot of nuances in email that you don't have just in looking at website tracking. You know how the website's doing. Just looking at, a simple little report, you can have an understanding of it. So I think the other channels tend to be a little more cut and dry and a little clearer. Although you'd think the ambiguity of social media would have adjusted the outlook for email a little bit more, because I think that's the most ambiguous. But
it should, but and why? How did social media get kind of sexy and sizzly, and email get?
Because it was hot. Email was never hot.
No, it wasn't.
Even when it was born, it was just kind of like people were taking it and adapting it and doing things with it and making money. But it was never hot. It was never sexy. It was never the cool new thing, because it just was. It existed.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like, we have to have a flashy, like, coming out party for our email saying, hey, we've been here all along, but let's show you what we got. And I feel like we do that, like, at every company I've ever been at. I've had to have that rollout of, this is everything that's going to happen through this.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's just a misunderstood category, and you have to have specialized people to do it.
I'd be curious reaction to this. I'm I'm in the middle of the struggle of writing a book. Campaign Genius, our company, puts real-time content in email, and as we've started to make connections and learn the space, I've come to the somewhat reluctant conclusion that there's a mental model around email that tends to limit what people think it can do. And I think it may have something to do, at least in part, with the word itself. If you say mail, you think packages, envelopes, send something. Once you've sent it, you're done. Email, if you look at the iconography, the visuals around email, you have tons of flying envelopes, but they're still envelopes. And they're like, why is it that we've got this sort of boxed in view? And that may have something to do with a bottom rung on the ladder stuck in the closet as well. Like, sort of everyone thinks they know how it works because they used to send envelopes, or because they have email on their desktop. And the truth's a good bit more complex than that.
A lot more complex. Yeah.
A lot more complex.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you brought that up, because I do think there's a pervasive image problem, and it always had that, no matter how hard and how much we talk about it, until executives, I think, really start to listen and understand, they're not going to see the differences and the nuances. But yeah, I mean, so much more can be done with email. And I think if you can break through that preconceived notion, then you have the ability to do all sorts of things. But getting that buy-in and getting through that noise is a little bit difficult. And I'm probably not giving that as much power as it should have, because it's really difficult. And I've had a lot of trouble selling in, let's do you said real-time email. I mean, trying to get people to do that for some reason, I don't know why that's so difficult. It should be like a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer to me. It's a quick sell. It works if you use it right. And why wouldn't we invest in that?
Right. Wouldn't you try it?
Super simple.
I don't know. And I certainly don't want to rat hole on that, just because I'll talk about
it
way too long and too much, but it's a little perplexing. I'm like,
it is.
Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? Yeah. And, broaden the scope from real time, which is just, it's one aspect of email can do stuff you didn't think it could do. You start looking at the fairly rich tool set available to an email marketer now. And I would imagine one of your challenges in the strategy role has been getting companies to understand, one, how valuable and effective it is, but two, how rich it can be if they get their arms around their own data and knowledge of their customers, instead of just treating everybody as the same.
Yes. You kind of hit the nail on the head there, because I think part of it is, how long have we been talking about data? The big data revolution. Big data was 7 years ago was the big keyword. And still people are talking about it and don't understand it. And digital transformation, only a handful of companies have truly digitally transformed. And, maybe a handful of really big ones have done it, but are they really integrated in that. So you might digitally transform, but are you really integrating your marketing? Are you really looking across your different channels and seeing the big picture? I think that's the hard part for a lot of just reaching what you can accomplish and explaining to them what you can accomplish if you did these things. So for me, that's the biggest challenge. But I try to always take it back to the data and ground it in that. Like, okay, you're sending these emails out, but you don't even know who you're sending to.
Right.
You know, there's this whole category of people that probably hate what you're putting in here. But for some reason, they stay subscribed because either they love your brand or something else, but you could be getting more out of them if you just respond to their needs. So
I watched a video. I still remember running across it. I ran across a video on LinkedIn probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a vice president from, I'm pretty sure it was from GE, General Electric,
mhm,
talking about digital twins. His subject matter, it was, we have a digital twin of, believe it or not, aircraft engines. We have all of the instrumentation and all of the data coming out of this engine in a digital twin of this engine so that we know something's going to go wrong before it actually goes wrong. It's expensive to wait for it to break, and we
right.
don't like airplanes falling out of the sky. So this digital twin thing has started popping back up, I've noticed, in marketing press. And it occurred to me, I love your reaction to this. If you think about email marketing in a how you should do it sense, you really want a digital twin of each customer.
Yeah, basically.
As much as we can know about them with their
Mhm,
permission, as much as
right,
we can
of
keep
course.
track of to be more personal, more relevant, to continue to build a relationship and connection with them, and not to treat them as all the
Mhm.
same, the better.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, this digital twin concept is fairly interesting to me, and I want to learn more about that because I'm
I
curious.
promise I will find that. I will find that
Thank you.
GE video, because I watched it. I'm like, that's really, like, it's just a great concept. And then it kind of wasn't a buzzword, disappeared. And in the last maybe month, I've noticed it popping back up. And I thought,
Mhm.
that's a way of looking at you. It's a way of taking that nebulous thing called data and marketing data and big data and making it
Right.
a lot crisper. It's like, what are we really trying to do? We're trying to actually
Right.
know our customer, but in a
Mhm.
detailed and a structured sense,
Exactly.
so that that knowledge informs our conversation. It's no different than a person to person relationship. What
Oh,
we can talk
exactly.
about is
Right.
important on,
Right.
yeah, what we know about each other. But I've never met a campaign genius customer for sure that didn't go, oh, gee, our data is not entirely where we need it to be, and that's going to make this.
Yeah, I would say that's
Yeah,
about 98% of
yeah, yeah.
clients.
Why is it so
Even the
hard?
big giant ones, you think the big
Yeah.
giant ones are going to have like their act together, but no.
No, no, no. How come?
Or like another division has a whole bunch of data, but they won't share it. Like,
Right,
I
right,
mean, there's all
right.
sorts of crazy stuff that goes on.
Why
But
is it
yeah,
hard? Why is it hard?
you know, I think part of it is people get really possessive. So when you're dealing with larger companies and everything's segregated
Yeah.
and they're doing their own channels in their own way,
Hmm.
they don't have to integrate their data in any way because it was set up that way. It was set up
Right,
to not be shared,
right.
which is ridiculous, but it's a lack of forethought by a lot of IT people, I think. Um, but at the end of the day, um, the possessiveness is really not helping them and working in their favor, but they think it is because they
Mm,
continue to see better results. But no one really actually thinks, well, how much better could it be
mm,
if I actually worked with, the email team on this project,
hmm.
or, the social team, or what if we all got together and went in cahoots and said, what if we actually have this integrated test and see what happens?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it's interesting to me that more people aren't more curious because I feel like at probably every job I've ever had since I entered email, the first thing I'm doing is when I'm making friends with my other channels,
hmm.
I'm making friends with my analysts and data scientists.
Smart,
Um,
smart.
yeah, right. I know. I bake a lot of cookies.
Yeah, I love it. I
I
love it.
ingratiate myself however I need to. Um, but really, I'm trying to get people to be open to ideas and thoughts, and to think about, okay, I have this idea with this client. Let's do, do you want to do this with me? Because I think it could be really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And, once you make friends and you're not fighting people, sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes I have to keep working up that ladder and getting people to say yes. But I think that's what I do all the time, is because I want people to do these other things, because I think that's where the richest wins are going to be.
Yeah. To be a little fair about the silos and segmentation that are so frequently an internal challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Vendors don't necessarily help with that. We're all guilty, and I put we as a vendor in that scenario. We're all guilty of building silos in order to try to make the cotton picking thing work, and then it becomes extra effort. Like, oh, these two things were not designed to share with each other, so getting them to share, which is better, is like, oh man, this is hard, or it's detailed, or you said first and he said first underscore name, and we've got to reconcile those, and all those seemingly little trivial things just make such a friction load
They do.
on what you'd like to have seamless. So it's a daunting challenge. I have to say, I look at companies that, how do I say this, do a ton of effective email sort of natively, and I'm a little envious. I end up thinking of Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? Like, doesn't seem like there's silos there. They darn well know my purchase habits, and they're very effective, right, at communicating.
But at the beginning, they were kind of a train wreck. But they were also pioneers, though. So, I mean, they're the first email I remember them trying to even recommend something to me.
Really?
And they were bizarrely bad at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, I remember let's say I bought, I don't know, a pillow, but they recommended I get a screwdriver. Like,
right. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I have never bought a tool from you. Like, why would you say do that? But that was at the beginning. And now they're actually showing me things like, oh, hey, I maybe do need that.
Right.
And that's really powerful. But yeah, I agree with you. They actually have it together.
They seem to make those pieces work together. Now, I don't know the internal workings of it, but you can read enough about the company to say, yeah, I'll bet, because they're so customer driven.
Yes.
That if someone said, well, that's, this is my silo, you can't have it, it would be like, I don't think so. Right. Is this better for the customer? Conversation over, we're going to do it, kind of a thing. Yeah. And they did build themselves from scratch. I don't think Amazon bought the Amazon website from a vendor. I think they built it, right? Like, they've done their own bootstrap up of all those systems to the point where they're now selling to everybody else in the form of AWS.
Exactly.
Luxury. They also did. I tracked the rise of AWS pretty closely. Like, thinking in terms of not duplicating the wheel was a fairly key direction for Amazon. I'm going to guess there's a system that everyone uses for the emails you get from Amazon, as opposed to many, many different vendors and many, many different installations of many, many different email systems.
I would hope so, because that would fit their business model.
Yeah.
But it's like, you never know, because I'm constantly shocked and surprised at how many companies in their different divisions have completely different platforms and products.
Right. That's true.
It seems like a giant waste of money to me. If people just collaborated, I mean, boom, let's everyone get what we need in one thing, because that's not impossible. There's 8 million choices.
Yeah. Well,
but I mean, at the end of the day, a big company can have like 5 different ESPs.
Oh yeah. Well, I wore the CIO hat for a few years, previous stage in my life, and it's got to be a nightmare now compared to then, because your procurement department is called your MasterCard, right? It's like, a cloud system that does blah blah blah. I'll go sign up for it on the company's behalf. You're like, no,
that's not how it works.
We'll end up with 30 ESPs, right? Or we'll end up with like 5 accounts at the same one, and we just didn't know that.
Right.
And you know, but like, talk about a siloed mess.
Ugh.
But aren't the email platforms also a bit guilty of they're pretty silo-y and listy and
Mhm.
possessive about their data. I don't find them the most flexible systems I've ever been around.
Oh my gosh, no, not at all. I agree with you 100%. And, some of them are really good at selling their product,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
they're selling the piece of the product. They're not actually selling like, there's some large names which will remain nameless that, there's no support. You have zero support. Like you have to go to a separate entity to get support, which that's crazy to me. Like that it works, but is it going to keep working?
Right.
That's what I'm curious about. Will that continue to work? I don't see that happening, at least for me. Like it just seems completely illogical. Like, why do I want to work with someone and I have to pay someone else if we have a problem? Like
Right.
it just is ridiculous to me. But yeah, I mean, a lot of them have these, yeah, right. A lot of these have, they're really good at selling their package, but then they're hands off, then they're done. They sold their thing. They made their sale.
Yeah.
They hit their mark.
Often
Um,
gone.
but now you need to figure it out and figure out what you're doing with it. And it's this behemoth of a beast that most companies don't need, these giant beastly ESPs.
Hmm.
I mean, unless you're like Pepsi and GE, then you need something that can tackle a whole bunch of stuff, but that's only if it's actually integrated.
Yeah.
So if you
We,
think about that, they still probably have 4 or 5 different ESPs floating around in there, but they have like 4 or 5 of the giants and maybe a couple mid ones.
yeah.
And what sense does that make?
I saw a Reddit post. Actually, I clipped it and sent it to Ryan Phelan, who I know is a mutual friend of yours as well.
Yes.
And the guy in the Reddit post, and you couldn't make it up. He said, "Here's how my company, which is fairly sizable, does email marketing. People scattered all around the company will copy and paste out of Excel into the BCC line on Outlook. That's how we do email marketing."
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, right?
That's one of the scariest ones I've ever heard. Ugh.
And it was a straight face, he's like, this seems dumb. This is how we do it. And I thought, wow, how do you even start in the conversation that says you guys are missing so much of an opportunity? And that is
Oh my gosh, yes.
so dumb way to proceed. But, oh well.
Oh wow,
But
that's a good
that's
one.
back to the sort of mental model of email. The fact that even happens tells you that one of the problems is that since everyone sends email, they're an email expert.
Oh, of course.
Not.
Well, there's that too. Yeah. And I remember it has not been that long since I have been asked, why can't we have an Outlook template? Like, well, okay, you really can't send mass email from your Outlook.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work well. You can't track it, you can't find it, you can't, sort anything,
All that
and it's
stuff.
going to
Yeah.
look awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter what you do.
All of that stuff. But it seems like, well, how do I say this? Since it comes into my Outlook, it must work the other way around as well.
Exactly.
Seems like a reasonable assumption.
Oh, sure.
I had a developer on our team as we were working up demos, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna give you a chance." And a guy with legit dev background, right? I said, "Okay, I'm gonna give you a chance to learn email HTML," and he was like, "Piece of cake. I'm a real software developer." Oh man, was his tail between his legs.
So
He
bad, right?
came back. He's like, God, this is complicated. This is hard. Can we maybe just get one template that looks good? I said, welcome to our customers world, man. This is tricky stuff to work with.
Exactly. Yeah. There's this one position I had not that long ago at a fairly large vendor ESP. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it was actually a great job because I learned a lot. And my VP, though, he had a very specific approach, especially with developers. And that was probably the most robust developer team I've ever worked with in email.
Nice.
Because he insisted, one, that they be trained in email. Everyone got the same training. Smart. And they had a very rigid, these are do's and don'ts, and we have to follow those because everything needs to render properly and all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is just at the dawn of mobile responsive. So, so lots of things were changing and evolving, but they did it as a unit.
Hmm.
So it wasn't just like one person doesn't go rogue, but one person does figure it out, shares it with everyone, and they all figure it out together, like to refine it. And then boom, they had this process. And, we always had a list of where we guarantee everything will render. I've never worked anywhere else that had that.
Wow. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
it
That's
was
pretty
really
impressive.
impressive.
And
It was
it's a real asset too.
huge asset.
Yeah.
And, it was just great because one, I learned a whole lot. I nerded out on that stuff. I mean, I am not a developer, never will be, but I knew enough to be dangerous. I
Hmm.
understood how it worked. I could go into Dreamweaver and like do spelling checks and stuff. But that was it. That was it. A few code changes, but not much, like little minor things.
Wow.
But you learn a lot from people like that because they're extremely detailed and in that space, which is really interesting to me.
I know some of the audience that this podcast reaches are they're more in the small to medium business end of the scale, even entrepreneurs with startups. And while email is an incredibly effective channel and their email list is ultimately one of their biggest assets, I also suspect that there's a lot of I don't even know how to start teeing up effective email marketing program. If you were talking to someone like that,
Mhm.
like over a cup of coffee or something, what's some of the things you'd advise them? How do they tackle this beast?
I think, well, there's obviously variables with every company and type and all of that. So let's just, in general,
Hmm.
chances are they're not communicating regularly with their consumers, so they need to.
Hmm.
So the first thing is, what are they always sending? Is it really relevant?
Hmm.
And then are they welcoming people when they sign up to subscribe? Are they thanking them for subscribing?
Hmm.
Are they, nurturing them and telling them what their product can do for them after they've made a purchase?
Hmm.
Are they sharing information or, hey, we just had an upgrade to this, let's say it's software. There's a new upgrade because you've already purchased this. We're giving you a special offer. Here you go. Everything from saying hi through keeping them a happy customer
Hmm.
is what you're looking to do. But you start off with that high. I think the easiest place for people to start off with is saying hello, welcoming them, and then taking it from there because you can add on to that conversation.
Hmm.
But you have to start at the beginning and let them know that you care that they
Boy,
bought something from you or want to talk to you.
that's such and it would be such that hello, that welcome, that thank you for signing up thing is such an easy one to not get to, and yet it sets the tenor of everything to follow, doesn't it?
It really is. Yeah. So it kind of
Huh.
sets up the entire relationship and it gets you connected with people.
I've got a I've got a Gmail account that's the deliberate. It's not a spam bucket. It's like the subscribe to anything and everything because you can
The
always
junk
learn.
bucket. Yeah.
And it's a bit of an education to sign up with that address. I mean, some sizable companies where I've gone and done the opt-in and provided the name and all that other stuff. And sometimes it's crickets. Like days later, I'll hear back
Oh,
from
yeah.
them, which baffles me.
Mm-hmm.
And frequently it's very generic. But
Mm-hmm.
you asked for my name, you didn't use it. You know where I was when I signed up, you didn't use that. Like all of these things that in theory could be part of that. And then sometimes there's not even a sense of brand voice. It's just sort of text only. Thank you for subscribing.
Yes.
Ugh,
Super
yeah,
generic notification type email.
yeah,
Back when, I mean, notification emails and transactionals really don't have to be that generic anymore either.
right, right.
Even your password reset email could be interesting.
Could be interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Take a moment to continue your brand and be interesting. Be funny. You
Yeah.
know, what people do on 404 pages is one of my favorite things sometimes. I love getting a really good error.
Yeah.
I've seen like stormtroopers. Oh, we missed, that kind of thing. It's like and granted, that's not everyone's brand voice, but
Yeah, still.
there's always, even if you're still being pretty light and professional or whatever, you can still have a moment to show your brand, have another brand impression, really, at the end of the day, because
I
every opportunity is an opportunity for an impression.
I had the opportunity yesterday to have Glenn Edley on as a guest. I don't know if you know Glenn. He's actually like a very, very long timer on the Only Influencers list, but he's in New Zealand, so he doesn't get out as much.
Mhm.
Um, but he runs an email marketing agency called Spike, and he was talking about a technique that he uses with, particularly with his clients who are in the small business. He has them set up a BCC account, kind of like that, junk email bucket I was talking about, Gmail
Mhm.
bucket I was talking about. And he said, every time you answer a customer question, BCC it here. And when he gets them to do that by the end of a month or 2 months or whatever, when they're starting to put together the newsletter, they don't realize how much content they had already created in the right voice, helpful, specific, all that other stuff
Mhm.
that's already done. Like
Yeah,
literally copy and paste out of your BCCs, and you've already got a ton of relevant content.
exactly. No, that's actually a great idea. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's a really good one. It's one of those simple things that, boom, you just have to think of it and there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
really
kicking
good.
myself like, God, I should have
All
BCC'd a
these
whole bunch of
years.
answers, right? Like, go, quick, run to the sent mail. Maybe it's still there. I don't know. But
Yeah,
one of the things that Glenn and I talked about was, how natural and easy it is to fire off an answer to someone in an email back to them, especially when it's
right.
one-to-one, and to be authentic and articulate and all that other stuff. And it feels a bit effortless, feels like talking. But the minute
Exactly.
you sit down to write the newsletter, we all
Yeah.
go into vapor lock, right? Like
Yeah, for
we'll have
sure.
to
For sure.
write like our English teachers looking over our shoulder or something like that.
That was my easiest class. So,
Yeah.
that doesn't bother me, but I understand it bothers most
You
people.
do a lot of writing now yourself, right?
I do. Yeah.
What kind of
Yeah.
things?
Well, I do some writing. I'm writing some like guides and, basically supplement information for vendors to give to their consumers in different verticals.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing something now for like city government,
Really?
which is a strange little sector that you don't necessarily think of unless you're actually servicing in that sector. And they have some interesting nuances
It's a
to
big
what they
sector.
shouldn't. Yeah. Yeah. So it's actually kind of fun. I'm learning things that I didn't
I'll
know.
bet. I'll
Yeah.
bet. Yeah. And a very different sense of the sort of customer relationship, I would imagine. I've worked with some of the local government folks
Hmm.
here, and I'm uniformly impressed with them. Like they're very mission driven.
Yes,
Like they're doing that because they want to be doing it.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Wow, what a great sector to work in. Has that been a while?
No, actually, that's just started.
Is it?
So yes, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So I'm doing two different sectors, and yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. I like
I
just
never-
writing. I like writing just in general.
Yeah.
So I've done some, whether it just be email copywriting or blog posts or whatever. I love doing those things.
No such thing.
It's something I've just always enjoyed.
Yeah.
Writing is one of those things for me.
So there's something that's not going to go away, right? The value of clarity, the value of well thought through. There's such a flood of makeshift content now
Exactly.
that I value the good stuff even more. Have you had those annoying people who get in touch and say they want to do your content for you?
Oh my gosh,
I want to
all the
reach the
time.
screen and smack them. Like, thanks for the nice offer. What makes you think you have the slightest freaking idea,
What I
about
need,
what
what
I
my business
might talk
is.
about, right?
Yeah, especially because you didn't even like refer to my actual business. You referred to me as your business of Forbes Council. I'm
Yeah,
like, that's not my business. I'm a
right,
member. I
right,
get
right.
that all the time. And it's
Really?
like, people are not reading.
No,
Like,
you're right.
read my
Fair.
profile. You'll pretty much quickly understand if you read it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, people are interesting to me.
Well, Litmus said the average email is read for 11 seconds, and I ran the math, and that means for your average 200 word per minute reader, that's 33 words of an email they get to. 33. That's not very many.
It's not a lot.
Like average
That's why
emails.
the subject line, the pre-header is so vitally important.
True. Yeah, true. I had an opportunity to listen to a session this morning. Skip Fedora was moderating, but they had a couple of copywriters,
Oh yeah,
including
email
Janet.
more.
I'm
I
assuming.
missed it, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a good session. It was fun to listen to sort of compare notes coming at that problem, and they did touch on the subject line. Janet said she said she learned a lot from Mad Men, believe it or not. She said, go
Yes.
through the grind of sitting down and writing 25 different subject lines, and you'll end up with better subject lines by the time you've done that really hard grind than if
Yeah.
you just said, I'll put one or two of them out there and let them go. You must have to do some of that kind of crafting.
I do. And when it comes to subject lines, I probably don't do that many, but I do a whole bunch because after you do a couple, because the first one is like, oh, you stumble through it. And
Yeah.
then you get through another one and you're like, okay, that's a little bit better. And it's really like you're partly improving on the ones you already did.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just refining them as you go down until you get to something you're like, okay, that's the one, but
Mm-hmm.
now I need another one. So I need to take a
Yeah.
different angle.
Yeah.
So I go down another list. But yeah, it's completely true because I think it's just the nature, at least for me, I'm someone who continually, as I'm writing something, I'm always refining as I'm going. So I'll get to a point, I'll be like, and I'll start reading it over, and then I refine, and then I start moving forward, and then I read it over again.
Mm.
So that's kind of just a natural habit
Mm.
for me.
It's a good
So
one.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. It's not.
I
It's
learned a
not.
lot of things from Mad Men, though. How to write. No,
It's great. It's great. Great.
it's a great show.
The detail work, the historical detail work in that show blows
Amazing.
my doors, man. It's like the cigarettes and the this and the that,
Oh, everything. Yes,
everything. Yeah, there.
every
Yeah,
detail.
yeah. We could probably film geek out. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I think so. We could.
Now, what's next on the horizon for you?
Well, I've actually been offered a full-time position that I start next week.
Woohoo!
So
Lucky
yeah,
them.
after I actually start it, I'll put it out there
Okay.
and see what it is.
Are you
But
stoked?
I'll be doing strategic consulting with a vendor,
Okay.
and that's going to be exciting. It's email is always a part of everything that I do,
Uh huh.
but I would say the customer experience is really where the main focus is.
Okay.
And of course, as you know, well, no, email is a huge part of that customer experience,
Yeah.
especially if you're doing it right. So, but this particular vendor is more in a mobile space. So that'll be fun for me. I'm very excited to play in mobile more and to integrate that more into the customer experience.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
as these cotton picking, gizmos
Yeah.
go everywhere with us, it's really hard to remember what it
I
was
mean,
like
like
when we.
names for them and everything. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. And this is.
I know. I thought about that actually not that long ago. I was rewatching some series and it was like just when cell phones were starting to be a thing and they're big and huge and they had to pull the antenna out and
Yeah.
everything. And like, I'm like, wow, that was a really long time ago, wasn't it? I'm like, no, maybe it
No,
wasn't really that long ago.
that long ago. No.
Exactly. But it feels like it because it doesn't feel like we've ever not had these, except when
Yeah.
you reflect back to your childhood. Like my nieces don't know anything about not having
They're
technology.
digital natives, right?
Yes.
Or maybe
Yeah.
mobile natives may even be the way to say it now, because that that was a very different step function than digital. I mean, I'm old enough to
Yes.
have done both of those change waves, and the mobile one, it's pervasive, it's ubiquitous. You got a Swiss Army knife in your pocket that can do just
Yes.
right. I saw someone once compiled a list of the functions that a smartphone replaces.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's jaw dropping. It's a photo album. It's a map. It's a this. It's like on and on and on and on and on. It's
Mm-hmm.
like thousands and thousands of dollars to replace it with, other means before the thing
Exactly.
existed.
So if you think about it in that construct, when they ask for, $1,000 for this little tiny device, it starts to make a little more sense.
It does. It
It
does.
doesn't
Yeah.
when I want to pay, when I have to pay for it, but
No. It's bad. It's like it's the most expensive computer you've got in some ways, and it's
Mhm.
also the one it's also the cheapest in terms of how much you use it and how much you depend on it and stuff like that.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you get somewhere and you don't have any connectivity, you realize what part of life it's become. What do you mean I can't look on a map? What?
I have to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, no, hang on a sec. I'll Google it. It's like, no, we're in the middle of the wilderness. It doesn't work. Ah, crap.
Well, they need to put some towers in the forest. Come on.
Yeah, something like that. I did a trip last summer with my sons. We were 110 miles of wilderness, middle of nowhere, no human beings for 4 days.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no cells, no nothing, right? And
Hmm.
it was refreshing. I
Yeah.
put my phone in a plastic bag in the backpack, and then I took it out almost 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And it's been a lot of years since I haven't, touched a keyboard in the course of, I don't know, every 5 minutes or something.
Right. I know. Well, I mean, it is our life. It's our job.
It's our job
And
and it's our life. That's
yeah.
that's fair. But
But
to
still,
back,
it's like when you can get away, it's kind
yeah.
of nice.
Well, it's
Yeah.
back to your, back to the writing process. You were talking about that job of write it, refine it, rethink it. Like that's really not about the device in the world of information at your fingertips. It's about your own thought process.
Hmm.
You may use a digital tool to do that, but the hard work is going on in between your ears, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Granted, there are AI technologies that can do those things for you.
What do you think?
Um,
What's your take on subject line done by AI? Good, bad, ugly?
I think it's interesting. I think what it can do, I think usually though, you're plugging in something people did.
Okay.
So it starts with people and then AI is just taking it and refining it. So from that perspective, it could be interesting. There's been some compelling test results, so I'm intrigued by it. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't gotten to play with it with a client though. And
Right.
that's where that's the proving ground, right? Is being able to play with it with a client.
And
But yeah, I mean,
with real human beings eventually opening them and
yeah,
responding. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
I fired up Grammarly, which is that add-on that checks your grammar as you type. And
Yep.
it's like, oh, okay, I'll experiment with this. I think it lasted 2.5 minutes before I was
Before
like,
it annoyed you.
would you get out of my way? I know it's a typo. I'm trying to get stuff written down here, right? I know that's crap grammar. Shut up. I'll get back to it.
I noticed even the new update for Microsoft Word in the
Yeah.
last 6 months.
Yeah.
It's highlighting and dotting and
Yeah. The
doing way
little,
more, and I have to keep telling it to stop doing it
yeah. The
because I'm
red
stop doing it.
underline.
Yeah,
Talk
yeah,
about your English teacher looking over your shoulder, right?
exactly. Like I don't tell me the spelling. That's all I care about. Everything else I'll deal with.
Yeah, I've actually gone back. When I'm writing, there are times I go. Believe it or not, I use the software uh, development environment that I code in. I've taken to writing in that because the keystrokes are muscle memory, and because it's so flippin' simple.
Right.
Plain text is like, oh, don't get distracted with fonts and don't worry about the grammar, underline, and stuff like
Right.
that. Like, just
Just get it
write.
all out, and
Just
then
right,
you're
dummy.
fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Too much multitasking. Not necessarily a good thing. So you said
Yes.
next week for your and mobile. Now, have you worked in mobile before?
Well, I've done mobile with clients and things like that, but I haven't worked inside of it
Okay,
or for a particular mobile company yet. So
okay.
that's exciting to me.
That's it's similar, but it's also quite different. I mean, you get a message on our
Hmm.
little friends here, and it gets attention
Oh yeah.
like really fast. That's as we
I
would
think
say.
that's part of what my excitement is. People pay a lot of attention to it.
They
A push message, just an SMS, all of it.
playing with dynamite though, right? If I'm
Mm.
going to get you get about one misstep
Yes.
before someone goes right, gone, bozo filter, no, do not call me, et cetera, et
I
cetera.
do think it's probably going to be harsher and faster. So yeah,
Yeah,
the thoughtful consideration and how you're writing things and what you need to be sending is even more important.
hmm.
Email, they'll forgive a little bit.
Yeah, because it's got much more of. I'll get to it later, and frankly,
Exactly.
the sort of notification habit is different. I mean, there was a time
It
when
is
we used
different.
to pay attention when our email went bing, and now you
I have that thing turned off. I
do
just
not
check it
want
every
to
now and
do
then.
that, right? God, I remember
Exactly.
Outlook alerts. It would pop up when you got a message. Oh, that's just an evil thought.
Oh, I know. It's horrible. Well, you can still do it. You can have it on. They just default it off now because people don't like it.
Well, how would you, like it would literally be like constant.
Oh yeah. Well, even my Gmail wants to like notify. I'm like, no, you don't
No,
get to.
no,
No.
yeah.
The only notifications I get from Gmail is for my calendar. They'll give me that 10-minute warning or whatever.
Yeah, which
But
I do like. Are you a slave of the calendar like I am?
yes.
Yeah. And
I have to be reminded.
I find it freeing, I have to say,
Hmm.
because trying to keep track of I need to do this at this time, especially when it involves other people, be like I'd screw it up,
Oh yeah.
right? So
Yeah, you
Google,
have to give me the 10-minute head start so I can finish whatever I'm doing
yeah.
and actually like refocus. Yeah.
I had opted in for there's way too many events. Golly, I'd opted in for another event that was going to overlap with a copywriter event, and I was trolling for where's the meeting link, and it literally because it wasn't delivered, wasn't on a platter in front of me.
Right.
I skipped the conference because they didn't make it easy enough for me to get there.
Oh yeah.
Probably my fault. Maybe not. I hadn't gotten to the fifth cup of coffee or something. But it's a mark of how much you have to kind of feed it
Hmm.
to everybody
Well, that's
now.
one of my favorite things about Gmail is if an invite hits there, it's on my calendar, whether I've accepted it or not,
Yeah,
until I do something with it.
yeah,
And that's a beautiful thing.
yeah. That's pretty
And
polished.
why more people don't do it?
Yeah, yeah,
Because it's real simple to add the which calendar function in this inside that email.
yep,
So it's little tiny things like that that are actually huge, big things. Because, like you said, you miss that.
yeah,
Even though
yeah.
you had two things booked at the same time, the decision was super easy for you to make because you couldn't get to the other one.
Yeah, and you get to the point where, to some extent, what's going to happen today?
Mhm.
I don't know. Google knows, but I don't. Right? I'll I'll show up when I'm supposed to be there, or
Right.
when the machine tells me to. Um, I am waiting. I am waiting for AI, which we've touched on briefly. I am waiting for someone to say the real opportunity in AI is cleaning up your flipping inbox. Although I don't know if machines are smart enough to do that yet.
I think, well, they've tried to do that
Yeah,
and it just hasn't flown. Gosh, what was that
I
one?
think
I remember a couple of years ago, there was some tool that came out and it was intended to help like clear the clutter. If it wasn't an important email, it basically would refile it for you.
yeah, yeah,
So it was kind of taking the Gmail tabs to a different
yeah,
height.
yeah,
But I don't want people sorting for my stuff. They don't know what's important for me from the onset. They still have to see my behavior for a while, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I remember playing with it with like my testing inbox
Yeah.
because then they weren't going to mess anything up.
Yeah.
But I didn't, I want to be able to see all the things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when you miss something.
Trusting that something important didn't get,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's a
huge.
lot of trust.
Yeah, that's a lot of trust. And then as soon as you have to start watching the watcher, its value
Yes,
proposition gone, right? It's
exactly.
like
What
that's
was the one last year that started where you had to pay a subscription? They gave you like 30 days free and hello or something.
uh well, there's hey.com, which is making
Oh, it was
it
Hey. It
hey,
was
okay.
Hey.com.
Hey is one, and hey is they're taking an interesting, stance on email. The Hey guy did an article a couple of weeks ago about the evils of the email tracking pixel. And I went to the website for Hey, and they had Google, Facebook, etc., all over the website. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought you said tracking was evil, and you're doing it on your website,
Mhm.
but somehow it's not okay in email. Not that that's the reason for pixels and stuff, but um,
Yeah.
I actually use a paid email client, which is I'm still a little shocked by this. There's a client called Superhuman, and I had
Mm.
read about it.
Okay.
Like, really? Okay, I'll give it 30 days, give it a shot. Had a bet with one of the developers. He's like, yeah, no way, because they said we'll get you to inbox zero, and I'm not an inbox zero kind of guy. And I've been at inbox zero for 4 months straight because of this email client, and I pay these guys.
Really?
Yeah, I call me a surprise believer, because I'm
All
like,
right.
really? And the
Take a look.
key is it's more like game design than software UI design. Things like deleting, filing, scheduled to go later are single keystroke, lightning fast. Like
Mm.
I get to the inbox and it's back down to whatever 4 or 5 things I'm going to grapple with in the morning by the time I'm at the desk, because I just.
Wow.
But for an email marketer who's working their tail off to get my attention and to get me to read their message, one, the subject line better be good.
You're really, really
And
good.
two, the content better be arresting, or I'm going to go like that and it's going to be gone in about a half a
Mhm.
second. I'll be on to the next, bing, 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 gone. It's been an interesting experience. I may be missing things in my email, but I'm also a lot less overloaded
Yeah.
by the 1,000 plus or whatever were in the
Yeah, right.
inbox
It's
before.
funny. Every now and like every, I don't know, let's say maybe once a year, maybe every 2 years, I get the bug that I need to like go into my Gmail and clear it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do. And on that, it's like if I'm just at one page, that's what a max of 50 or however you have it set,
Yeah.
30 maybe. Um, I'm super happy. Like that's exciting to me because I love inbox zero, but I haven't been at it in a long time.
I hadn't been 20
It
years.
just
Never. Yeah.
gets to be too much. But that's also it's my storage place. Until
Yeah.
it's done, it doesn't leave the inbox, which is also why it tends to stay there. It takes a while to get to some things.
I remember reading once that humans are not hierarchical organizers by natures. We're actually monocline groupers. I don't know why that stuck in my head. It sounds like a fish. But what that means is if you look at most people's desk,
Yeah,
there are single stacks and the stacks have meaning. And I'm looking
I do
and
not
I'm
have
look
that.
and I'm looking over your shoulder.
Well, that's not mine. That's my
Okay.
roommate's actually.
Okay.
So what you can't see, I have one stack
Mm-hmm.
of a lot of different things.
Okay.
The stack itself has no unique meaning. It's just the stack of stuff that I eventually, at some point, I have to look at,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't
Like
take
you
time to do it.
sounds like your inbox.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Interesting. I think that's one of the where I was going with that
But
is
the
one
stuff
of
in process is it can be all
all
over.
over the
If I'm
place.
in the middle, like there'll be sticky notes all over the place, and my notes are in one spot right next to me.
Yeah.
But my desk is fairly neat at the moment because I
Okay.
just moved a month ago,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it won't be for much longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tend to have a chaotic
Yeah.
workspace.
I don't do neat desk. I'm with you there. Like a
Yeah,
neat desk. Bad
it
bad
makes way
idea.
more sense to me. If it's too neat, I'm like, where is everything?
It's like
What did I do with it?
I saw someone once with one browser tab open. It's like I don't know what that is, man.
I think right now I have at least 25 minimum.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no. That when I accidentally open up a new tab,
Hmm.
when you click for something to open up in a new tab, but you click for a new
Yeah.
opening.
Yeah.
What am I? Yeah, I can't think of the
New
word for
tab. Yeah.
something.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But when you see that one tab, I'm like, God, that looks weird.
Yeah.
It's just so weird to me.
Clean and sparkly and lonesome and
Oh yeah.
not filled in and all that other stuff. And then the reluctant reboots I do, the browser goes like, "Hey, do you want me to restore?" And I'm like, "Oh man, sorry,
Yes.
buddy. Yes."
Oh my gosh, so many. I know. Yeah. And then when I'm doing research, which I've been doing, it's even more. Like I had to clear out
Yeah.
last night a section of the tabs that were like just my personal stuff
Yeah.
that I would needed to go back to read or whatever. And I just had to kind of go through it and file it so that way I didn't lose it
Yeah.
just to do my research because the tabs were getting too small for me to find stuff. That's how many tabs I had open.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. And if you're in marketing, you work with tech, if digital's kind of your bread and butter in some way, it's not avoidable anymore.
No.
The SaaS thing has worked, yay, wonderful, etc. But it's like, I got to have this one and I have to have that one. And then I'm going to open this one. And it's like, whatever, 25, 30, and I just got started.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the muscle memory of, oh yeah, that one's over there and this one's over here. But there's still a
Exactly.
certain point where I'm just like, what the? I had a call earlier with someone and I was literally kind of digging through browser instances trying to find the call because I knew they were back there. I could hear them.
That's hilarious. So I keep one page open
Oh, there you
and
go.
all my tabs are at the top of it because that I have trouble with when I have
Yeah.
too many things open in general.
Yeah.
So like I've got PowerPoint open, I've got Excel open, I've got Word open, I've got Zoom open, I have my Chrome open, I
Yeah.
have Slack and Messenger and all that stuff. But if it's not minimized, if too many things are actually on my screen, that's when I have a problem.
Well, a true confession, the dock on, I'm a Mac user, a hardcore Mac user, and the dock at the bottom of the Mac, I had to change how the dock works because putting all the apps in the dock was ridiculous. So I changed it where only running apps are in the dock, and I still end up with the
Hmm.
dock all the way across the screen because I run so many apps there at once. Bad
Yeah.
human. Not supposed to do
Yeah.
that. Oh well, who says multitasking doesn't work? Hey, we're going to wrap up with a speed round if you're game.
Ooh, yes.
Your speed round
Go
if you're
for it.
game. And I was going to ask about inbox zero, but we talked about that already. Okay, so here you go. Dogs, cats, both, or neither?
Both, but lean dogs.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Name a favorite place.
Ooh, favorite place. Ireland. I love
Nice.
Ireland. Galway
Nice.
in particular.
Okay, so the money shot here. Name a favorite book or author. I have gotten some great tips off of this question.
Oh, okay. I never will go business book on you because I almost never have one of those. It will always be literature. And my probably all-time favorite is To Kill a Mockingbird,
Oh,
which was
oh,
also a fantastic film.
oh! You're so right. Oh, it's such. I remember the first time reading that book, and it was like,
Oh, it was so good. Was it so
boom!
powerful?
Oh,
Right?
so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yep.
Yeah, good call, man. That deserves a reread, doesn't it? Dang.
Oh, yeah. I've read it like 4 times, I think.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. It's been a few years since I reread it, so I'll probably do that again soon too.
did you read the sequel?
I did.
Sequel.
Wait,
She
did
didn't
I?
want it to be published, and then after, near the end of her life, Harper Lee's life,
She died like months after it was released.
yeah, released, and it's like I thought if she waited all those years, maybe she didn't think of it as, and it's a
Yeah, I
still
didn't
came on
read it yet,
American.
and because I'm reticent to read it. Like
Me too.
I'm worried about reading. I don't want to ruin anything.
Right? No. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. No. It was perfect. Like
I think I bought
Mockingbird.
it, and I'm like, I don't know if I can open this.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Mockingbird was like, you didn't need to add to that.
Oh,
You
so
need to take away. I don't need
yeah.
to like. Boom. Done. Good. She wrote.
Yeah.
If she wrote one book and that was the book, yay!
Say go for it.
Winner.
I mean,
Winner.
J.D. Salinger, he wrote a few, but still pretty obscure.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right. Wow.
Mm.
Literary bent, Miss Samantha. I love that. Well, listen. What a pleasure.
It's been great.
Yeah, I mean, look at
Yeah.
that. I asked you for half an hour, and we let a whole hour slip by because it was such a good
So
conversation.
that's always a good thing.
That's always a good thing. Well, best of luck on your next venture. And how about this? How about we talk about mobile after you've got some time under your belt there? I would love to hear your
I love
impressions
it.
of that world once you sort of get in and swim in it for a bit.
No, that sounds great. I love it.
Okay, once again, my guest today, the wonderful Samantha Iodice. Thank you, Samantha, and
Thank
we'll do
you.
this again in a few months.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.